fun things. If you're able to hear my voice at all, go ahead and raise your hands up as we get going. Yeah? Cool. Volume-wise, if this volume is too loud for anybody's ears, hands up, too loud? Too soft? I got an okay in the back. Nice. Welcome aboard the African Tram. My name is Candy. I'll be your driver and guide. We'll be out here for about 25 to 30 minutes. I do have some safety information to get us started. If you take a look above your heads, most of you should be able to find a solid yellow strip on the ceiling up there somewhere. If you see that, and if you or someone around you has a medical emergency, that would be your way to get my attention. Press and hold that yellow strip. If you don't see anything on the ceiling at all, that just means you're the few first rows right behind you, the driver. There is a window you can knock on the glass, or have somebody do that for you if you need to. I know to stop the tram. I'll come back, I'll see what I can do to help you out. So those are for medical emergencies only. If you lose any personal items overboard, I do not stop to pick those up along the way, so let us know at the end of the tour if you lose something. We can make arrangements to get it back for you as soon as possible. Anytime we're moving, please remain seated. I do make a lot of short, frequent stops. You're welcome to stand up when we stop. Just have a seat as we start to move again. And you may want to avoid leaning on, sitting on, or pulling on those doors as they are not locked. They're only safety latched. And if you fall out here, you have to run faster than the cheetah that is on the right side of the vehicle. So, how many of you think you could outrun a cheetah from here? Show of hands. No. Yes? Want to try it? Kidding. No, don't do it. 0 to 60 miles an hour in about 3 seconds is the acceleration of these cats. 0 to 60 in 3 seconds. Now, human beings not quite that fast, but we can do something that cheetahs don't. They cannot do. Long distance running. There are a lot of people in the world that for whatever reason run marathons because we have that ability. As human beings we do. Yes, many are excellent sprinters, but our adaptation is for long distance travels. Cheetahs are the sprinters of the world. They are specifically adapted to be the fastest land mammal. Big barrel-shaped chest, taking a lot of air, enlarged nostrils, small ears. Everything about them is aerodynamic. Even their tails are slightly flattened to help control their movements when they're trying to chase down their prey. That, funny enough, doesn't always run in a straight line. Though. Just try to avoid those cheetahs. Now, because they use so much energy when they do run, which is either to get food or to get away from something to avoid injury, they rest most of the time. About 80% of their time is doing what that cheetah is doing right now. Conserving energy. That's right. It's all about energy conservation. So we're going to see a lot of different behavioral adaptations for survival. It could be energy conservation. It could be huddled together in one big, massive blob of bird over here on the right side again. For the flamboyant, the greater flamingos, just over 200 adults or chicks in the mix somewhere out there. If you see them, bonus points to you, because sometimes those chicks get lost in the crowd. The parents know where they are, but as far as predators, it becomes a bit more confusing. Keep the baby safe. Safety is first, and survival of the baby is survival of the species. Now don't worry, we're going to come back to all of this towards the end of our tour. We'll be circling around 2.5 miles, looking for approximately 50 different species of mammals and birds. We'll find them on both sides of the tram throughout our journey into our version of the wilds of Africa here at the San Diego Zoo Safari Park. I will do my best to point out as many different species as I can, but some of them I'll just have to skip over because of timing purposes, or I might not be able to talk about something as much as you're hoping. So if you do have questions, those are more than welcome at the end of the tour. We'll just see what's happening out here. It is kind of that time of day when lunch is being delivered. The animal care specialists deliver food throughout the day, so all of the animals that live here, they have a good life. They have a meal delivery service. They have somebody that cleans their rooms on a regular basis. It's great. Now, of course, we do want them to behave as naturally as possible. So sometimes the food is in a place where they have to figure out how to get to it, or maybe it's strung up high, so they have to figure out how to navigate that height. For some of them, that's no problem. We'll see a little bit later on some of the taller land mammals. But the food is in the plants. plants, right? So it's just as important for us as an organization to preserve and conserve the plant life as it is to focus on preserving and conserving animal life. So all around us right now, the greenery and the plant life, you'll see most of our conservation efforts in progress right now. Seed banking for the future, plant propagation. Most of the plants around us are endangered species, believe it or not. Many of the trees that are in the habitat, some of the coral trees that we'll be encountering, and we're going to be kind of stopping underneath as we look into our version of the savannas of South Africa and the active pelicans on the water. We stop in the shade of the coral trees, the dragon trees. Cool name for a tree. Right next to some agave, if you enjoy the occasional tequila or margarita. You like agave? Yes. Where do the pelicans go? Where are they going? I don't know. That way. Looking for food. So yes, there is a meal delivery service, but all of these animals have opportunities to find their own resources, find their own food. For pelicans, the great white pelicans and Dalmatian pelicans that we're looking at, that is under the water in the form of a fish. And there are fish that live in the pond, self-sustaining populations. They can go out, they can get a bite to eat whenever they want to, hunting, using those brains, how to properly attract fish closer to them, move fish into shallower waters, working together as a group. For the great white pelicans, those are social predators. Isolating one fish from the rest. How fast do you need to be to scoop that fish up into the gular pouch that's not to get underneath their bill? So if you do see them dunk their heads under the water, they might be trying to catch fish. If they catch a fish, they'll swallow it whole. And you'll notice right away, they just toss their head back and gulp it down. So a lot of fun things to look for when you're on tours, when you're exploring the safari park, all of these natural behaviors, and again, they're all adaptations for survival, getting food or avoiding becoming food as best they can. And what many of these animals are facing outside of all those things are challenges they haven't adapted to. Things like habitat loss, or loss of prey for many predators, human encroachment. So I'm also going to touch on some of the conservation work that we are involved with. After all, we are a conservation organization, the majority of which on grounds involves having babies, as we are a breeding facility, and that's why you see what you see. That's why you experience what you do here at the safari park. The whole design, the concept is meant to encourage natural behaviors, but that does center around their natural breeding behaviors. So providing them the opportunity to build their own nests, perhaps, for many of the birds. Find safe places to give birth. Once they have done that, finding little pockets or little nooks and crannies that they can hide their babies in. A lot of the antelope that we'll encounter, once they've had their babies, they hide them. They're tuckers. The babies tuck away. Some of them, however, they don't have time to do that, nor do they have a lot of places to hide, so they may camouflage into their environment and follow their parents whenever they're on the move. And some of those would be the South African oryx. Here we currently have adults. We don't have babies yet. Haven't had any recently. But the adults with that lavender gray coat, black and white markings, long straight black horns like toothpicks on top of their heads. The babies, when they're born, they're more of a buff color, sandy color. It's not until they get to be around 2 or 3 years old that they start to transition to get the colorations of their the adults, because that's about the time when they may have to start competing for resources. Living in a desert like you do, there's not a lot of water available or food available all the time, so whatever is available, they may have to compete with one another for the opportunity. So fighting takes a lot of energy, and there's always a risk of injury. So sometimes intimidation tactics are used. The horns, you follow that horn down the side of their face, there's a black line, and it's meant to make the horn look longer than it really is. So for the South African oryx, this black and white facial marking helps them, or could help them, look intimidating to another individual. And if you can frighten somebody away from the food, you save yourself a whole lot of energy, and that's a win-win situation. You get food, they leave, win-win. Other species, they might be a little bit more feisty about it. Maybe they like to stay in one place. And they defend a territory. For the sable antelope, look for some babies in this herd. They had 4 of them recently. See if you can find any of them. This is another one. They will tuck their babies. They hide their babies. Anywhere from, 4 to 6 weeks, depending on the baby, depending on the species. As babies get older, they start to join the rest of the herd more and more often, on a more regular basis, but they still might be put into a little bit of a daycare center, a creche it's called, a smaller herd of just the youngsters with maybe 1 or 2 adults looking out for them. So for this species, the females will find and defend their territory. A piece of real estate with everything that they need in order to survive: food, water, shelter, and safety. Now, they don't mind other species moving through, just passing through, sharing what's there, but if they try to set up camp, if they try to take that territory, the sable antelope females would have something to say about that. Not everybody has that mentality. Not all species are that territorial or that competitive. The females, anyway. Some of them, they're going to let the males do all the work. And then they choose the males with the best real estate. See? For the Ellipsan waterbuck, the big brown shaggy antelope underneath these giant shade trees in the center here, it's all about working smarter, not harder. There's currently not a male part of this herd of Ellipsan waterbuck, but that could change in the near future as they are still searching for their perfect match through something called the Species Survival Plan, which essentially is kind of like online dating, but for wildlife and zoos, they get matched up based on their genetic availability and compatibility. And it's really the only way we can maintain genetic diversity to make sure the animals that are born or hatched here and other zoos that we're partnered with are going to be as healthy as possible. So for example, we recently had a male Cape buffalo that was removed from the herd because he was so good at his job. He had so many babies, fathered so many babies, that we were running the risk of inbreeding, not something we would like to do. So there's a new male in this herd, and he's also doing an excellent job representing his genetic line. Now this is especially important for certain species like those on the right side of the tram that are critically endangered, to ensure a healthy population and human care for the future of that species. So off on the right side of the vehicle is a species of animal that might look a little familiar. At first glance you're like, oh, it's a donkey. Oh, no. These are wild equids. Wild animals. They are native to Somalia. So what you're looking at are the Somali wild ass. That's their name. You can call them that. Looking at the lower portion of the legs, it does give you an indication of maybe a relative of theirs. Black and white stripes. Yes. So as a critically endangered species, we're talking maybe only 500 in the wild. And of those 500 or so, perhaps only half of them are capable of reproducing, having babies. The rest are either too young yet, or they are getting too old. Now, some of the biggest challenges for this species: civil unrest, protection, unfortunately not high on the priority list, understandably so. It's unfortunate. But also a lot of competition with domesticated livestock in their region. Now, as human beings, we rely on domesticated animals for our livelihood, our survival, but it also comes down to how can we share what is available with the other animals that we share our world with. So as we have allied ourselves with an organization called the Northern Rangelands Trust, this is an organization. They do so many amazing things, some of which involve building wells whenever possible, so hopefully there's more water available for both wildlife and livestock in certain areas. Working with farmers and ranchers around herd management and land management, just to name a few. But as we are leaving behind the savannas, passing by a small tower of Maasai giraffes, if you're looking off ahead of us, up the hill, you may get a glimpse of them a little bit later on, but you might see some boulders moving around. Those are a couple of eastern black rhinoceroses, or the hook-lipped rhinoceroses. There is a male and a female in this 40-acre hillside habitat, and they're still fairly new to each other, still getting to know each other, still building that relationship, but we're hoping that soon in time they will be able to add to the already 13 eastern black rhinos that have been born here at the safari park. You may also see some orange-colored antelope moving across the little canyon area. Got some Uganda cob. Over taking refuge underneath a fig tree or a ficus tree. A young bachelor herd of greater kudu. Look at those horns just starting to grow. Now those horns are going to spiral up. Get a few more twists on them. So handsome. And those horns are what the females will look to as something called a fitness indicator. They said, you have lovely set of horns. They're symmetrical. They're not broken. I like that. That means you found a lot of good food. I like food. I'm going to go hang out with you. We have so much in common. These are the conversations I imagine they have with each other. Now those bachelors, those young males, they have not been matched up to any females either here at the safari park or another zoo that we're partnered with. And again, that's all done through species survival plan. People that actually look at all the genetic lines. It's intensive, but definitely worth it. Alright, so here we find ourselves at the highest elevation on our tour. Got a little beach day for a family unit of roan antelope. You might notice black and white face on them. They also sport that threat mask indicating they could be competitive with each other if they needed to be, but would rather avoid fighting, so intimidating. The pelicans that you see gliding along the surface of the pond up here, these are a couple of pink-backed pelicans. It looks like they are actively trying to gulp some fish down. So far from the first pond with that first group of pelicans up to this pond with the pink-backed pelicans, we have traveled around about 100 acres of land so far. This is a lot of space, but this is still just a fraction of the safari park. There are 1,800 acres that make up this facility as we join Aria and Kendi, the eastern black rhinos. They've made their way up to the top of the hill. They are on the left side of the tram now. So Aria is in the front, that's the female. Kendi is in the back. He has a shorter tail. How we can identify who's who out here. Believe it or not, these are some of the smaller species of rhinos in Africa. Only about 3,000 pounds, you know. But still a big, boulder-sized animal. Now, size does keep them safe. A full-grown adult, healthy rhino like these two, they would have very few of any natural predators. There is only one predator that we do worry about with the very existence of all rhinos. In fact, eastern black rhinos are facing endangered status. White rhinos facing endangered status. There are a couple of rhinos from Africa. One, the western black rhinos, they were declared extinct in 2010, so not that long ago. That means no more in zoos, no more in human care, no more in the wild, extinct. And they were largely, well, it was due to poaching activity. Human creation, that is the number one threat for these animals. Poaching activity is driven by consumer demand, so people demanding to buy rhino horns, specifically only rhino horns, as it is still widely used in many traditional will cure everything from fevers to cancers, even though studies have shown that rhino horn is made of a common protein that we've already seen. We've got on the birds, we've got on the giraffe, all of the antelope. In fact, the irony of this entire situation is that humans have rhino horn on our bodies. If you run your fingers through your hair, touch your own fingernails, you just touch rhino horn. That's what it is. Keratin protein. No different. Looks different, grows on a different part of the body, but it's made of the same stuff. Keratin is also found in hooves, like the Grevy's zebra or zebra, kicking up dust down there below us. And then they all stop in a line. See that? So much like flamingos, when Grevy's zebras stand in a group, a huddle, a dazzle, a blob, because that's what it looks like, that's what I call it, it gives the impression that there could be more or less or, one big group, one small. It's very confusing to predators. All those stripes is chaos, chaotic camouflage. Around on the upper part of the savannas, and again, just being able to really appreciate how much space there is. But again, everything we've driven around, this is a large habitat. This is a fraction of the park itself. 1,800 acres, half of that left aside is a habitat preserve. And that's in the surrounding hillside, everything we've had on the right side for the time being. Here in San Diego, Southern California, we have one of the world's biodiversity hotspots in our own backyard, in the California coastal scrub brush in Chaparral. But it is some of the most endangered habitat in North America as well. There's only about 15 to 20% of it that remains intact. So that 15 to 20% being home to hundreds of different species of animals and plants, many of which are found nowhere else in the world, we wanted to make sure that those that are found here on this property have a home for as long as possible. The balloon rising above some of the trees on the right takes you about 400 feet up in the air. Get a nice view of this entire valley. The elephants, when you're up there, they look like little toys moving around down below. Now, a lot of people ask, why are elephants out here? Why aren't they on the tour? If you do visit Elephant Valley, do me a favor. Just take a look and see if there are any trees growing in their habitat. And if there are, I think you notice they have these massive walls around them. Elephants are wonderful at shaping the environment. That means knocking down trees. And it's what they do. That's the food source for them. Knocking them down, getting branches, getting leaves, getting fruits. So if we housed elephants in the large open field habitats, it'd be quite a different environment out there. They do get their own space, and they get a lot of enrichment, encouraging natural behaviors like knocking on trees to knock down fruit or knock down food, ways that they can use their brains in a natural way to figure out how to get what they need. Everything we just kind of skimmed over in the beginning of the tour. We will pass by once again the greater flamingo flamboyants. They will be on the left side of the vehicle this time. You'll smell them, you'll hear them, then you'll probably see them. because they're not the only ones that shape their environment. Every animal has an effect on their environment. In fact, in the habitats, the Northfield habitats, you'll notice all the grass is so well manicured. The lawns are nice and trim. We don't do that. The animals do that. They graze on the grass. They mow the lawn. The birds, they're wonderful for pest control with the bugs and beetles that accumulate around dung middens. Rhinos leave messages to each other in their droppings, so kind of a communal spot that they all go to the bathroom. But this brings in dung beetles, which the crown cranes love, absolutely love. And then as they travel around, moving throughout their environment, they're going to be dispersing seeds, pushing their seeds into the ground, planting them, aerating the soil with their hooves. The only thing we do as far as maintenance for the plant life in the habitats is pretty much just water the lawn, irrigation. But giraffe are another one of those that shape their landscape, shape the environment, shape the trees. They're very intrigued by what's happening with the human activity. There's some tree trimming happening in their habitats. Oh, this is something I've never been able to reach before. Thank you. These are reticulated giraffes. There's a branch that fell down, a palm frond that fell down. But it's way down there. Oh, there we go. That's how you do it.
Oh, look at the one following the yard race.
It's like dangling a carrot in front of them.
There's a man up in the butterfly.
Yeah, when they all in front of them.
That's what YouTube.
Yeah. There's treats in there, I know.
Tree trimmers working together. Now, in their native habitats, giraffes are often drawn to thorn trees, and one of the most prevalent thorn tree on grounds are the African thorn trees or fever trees with the lime green bark. This one on the left side of the tram is a wonderful up-close view of those lush leaves. But if you look closely, in amongst those leaves, there are needle-sharp thorns on the branches. So to navigate around those thorns, the giraffes do use their tongues, weaving around the thorns. If they happen to get a thorn in their mouth by accident, they have an incredibly hard upper palate. They also have really thick saliva. It's kind of like hair gel. It's gross, but it works for them. It protects their mouth. So that's one of the favorite food sources for giraffe in Africa, are from fever trees. And those fever trees on grounds are propagated from one I don't know how many grades, grandfather of them all. It's a tree that came over from Africa as a sapling when Dr. Schroeder, the founder of this facility, came back from a visit, and that tree is over 45 years old and can be found at the Thorn Tree Plaza. And when you're looking around and you see all the beautiful landscaping, you see the work that goes into the habitats, the animals that live here, you also get to see exactly what you are supporting with your visit today. We are a not-for-profit conservation organization, so being able to maintain this facility, it takes a lot of work and a lot of support, and you are helping us do that just by sharing your day with us. So as we come around full circle, I do want to say thank you for making us part of your day and for making a difference with your visit here today. But since we're back where we began, we're going to end our journey, and once I've come to a full and complete stop along the dock, the exit off of the tram will be to the right, to the station side only, where the people are. If you would like to open your own door once I have stopped, you're welcome to do so by reaching over on